Good evening. I'm Dr. Gus Penix, President of the Nicholas County Board of Education. I'd like to call this the January the 4th, 2021 regularly scheduled meeting of the Nicholas County Board of Education called to order at this time. Would you please rise? I want the board to run the silent reflection, which is opportunity to reflect on those things for which we have to be thankful, but also to clear our hearts and minds from the business we will consider here this evening. So, run the silent reflection, please. Thank you. Would you please join the board in saluting our country with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. The first item on this evening's agenda is to approve the minutes of meetings held on November the 12th and December the 7th, 2020. Those were in your electronic package. Any corrections to those minutes?
Yes, sir. December 7th. You asked me at that time if I wanted my statement to be reflected in the minutes. I said yes. You asked me to give those notes to the secretary. But it just says that I expressed a contradiction. It doesn't state what that was.
What did I didn't see what you said. So
that FEMA had agreed that an H&H study needed to be done.
So that was the statement.
If I may say, the only thing I received was snapshots of pieces of an email. I didn't receive the whole document, and so therefore I just documented what he said and what you said, that he had a contradiction to the minutes.
And the full context of the conversation was not provided either, so as far as the assertion of what was presented, it was not there. Who did it go to? Where did it come from? It didn't have, I'm not sure how we're supposed to document a full email conversation or what parts he contradicted.
I gave exactly what I stated at the meeting. I gave exactly what I stated at the meeting.
Also, though, these minutes are not like a court document. These are not transcribed minutes. These minutes are brief and to the point. They're not word for word.
So what was, I read the minutes, I can't remember exactly what was stated. What was stated in the minutes?
It just says, let the record show Mr. expressed a contradiction to the part of the minutes from November 16th.
And you were objecting to the previous meeting of the November the 16th meeting, that there was a contradiction in that of some sort, right? I mean, I don't.
Yes, the contradiction was that FEMA also agreed that an H&H study needed to be done.
We got other documentation that said otherwise. So, I mean, I don't know how you debate that. You go back and forth. I mean, he was disagreeing with what the minutes said, so it was reflected that he did not agree with it because it was a contradiction. So I'm not sure how do you, so then do we go back? Do I go back and present and say, yeah, but FEMA did say this? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. So, okay, now let's think about this just a second here. The November 16th meeting, I remember now we stated that those minutes, I mean, you can't go back and change actually what happened in the November 16th meeting. So you disagree with the meetings and you expressed a contradiction to that, part of the minutes of that meeting, and so therefore you voted against those minutes, right? As I recall, you voted.
That's correct.
So this is just simply stating that, you know, that there's that you did express a contradiction, and the, that was what transpired in the meeting there, so it looks like it's a very accurate presentation, and I would say that if you don't agree with, we're not even approving those tonight, though, are we? You would be disagreeing with the December 7th meeting now with these that you're
Correct.
actually.
December 7th.
Okay, then I would say just that you would need to note an objection again. Would be how I handle that, I would think.
Well, will it be corrected?
He's
No,
trying to add
that's
language
not
to
changed.
it, he's trying to add language to, you're trying to disagree with a statement that was made in a previous board meeting.
And I cannot do that. I won't.
So, I mean, I'm not sure what the confusion is. You're disagreeing with a statement that was made in a previous board meeting.
I was making a statement that FEMA agrees that an H&H study needs to be done. That was my statement, which I verified.
And I verified that the document that said that it didn't have to be, it was left up to the city.
Well, that
And I
was in- that
presented
was
you
in the
with the
previous
email.
meeting. That was in the previous minutes.
But you were
Yes,
trying
it
to
was.
change those minutes.
You can't change the minutes, I mean, it is what it is.
Of that meeting. I would say, Mr. Moose, that if you disagree with the December 7th meeting now, as it occurred, then let your objection just say, again, I'm voting against this, and because it doesn't reflect, it's not an appropriate reflection of what I think, or something to that effect, but that's the only way to resolve that.
Could it be put in the minutes this time, though, that why he's rejecting, I mean, on the cause of the letter,
That's up to them.
that was in contradiction to the one that she presented before?
But he's voting on the minutes. So the minutes, it happened. What was stated was stated. If he wants to bring up a new, in my opinion, if he wants to bring up a new issue and it be on the board and have it discussed, and we bring in additional information, go back and forth, I'm not sure of the purpose, but how do you dispute what was actually stated? I stated, I presented an email, I presented the information, and he didn't want to vote for it, he voted against it because he said he had something that said something different. You're voting on what was stated in the meeting. So it was either stated or wasn't stated. It was stated. He disagrees with what the statement was made. I disagree. I'm saying my statement still stands. So how do you get into a debate on which is accurate? It's just an approval of, are these minutes correct? What I stated is what I stated. Whether he agrees or disagrees with it's one thing, but it was stated and it was factual as part of the board minutes. And you can't change what was stated. That was minutes, and it's recorded.
December 7th meeting indicated that he was in disagreement with the meeting and he voted against the minutes. So-
And it was recorded.
And that's how it's
So how do you
reflected.
change what has already been said and what was recorded?
Well, you can't.
It's
but I'm
simply a
just saying-
clarification of the contradiction.
So you're contradicting a board minutes. How do you contradict it? It was stated.
And I can't, my goodness, your board minutes each time, if I was to type every word that you just
They're
said.
not transcribed,
Right,
but it's recorded.
exactly.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if there's ever a question, you can pull the minutes.
Well,
You can
it-
pull the recording.
Sure.
It's
And
says-
Chris has got it recorded as well.
It says approve the minutes. Either you approve them or you don't.
That's
That's the point.
Yeah. I think that's the key point there. Well, anyway, I think that's just very much the same point there, that either approve the minutes or reject them and just move forward.
I serve on 2 other boards, and minutes are continually amended and corrected and approved based on those amendments and corrections. I don't know why that doesn't apply here.
What I stated was accurate.
And what I stated was accurate and verified.
But I don't,
Through bits and
but was
pieces
your,
of
Don, what you said, it wasn't stated in the minutes either, was it?
No.
I don't remember that being in there, what
We
you
don't
said.
go into detail.
It's not transcribed.
Okay.
What was transcribed is is that he voted against it because he didn't agree with it.
Right.
And then he made a statement that was a contradiction to that effect, or something with those minutes, and we put that in. As I said to him, you can make a statement this time, and that there's a contradiction here. We go into the minutes of that meeting, the December 7th meeting, and we put them in there. Now, we didn't.
Now, that means we're not correcting errors in minutes? If there's an error, we do not correct it? We just approve it or not approve it?
We certainly have corrected errors, but the issue was you disagreed with the minutes and you voted against it, and you made a statement that there was a contradiction between your opinion and whatever the superintendent had said at that particular time, and we did put that in there. So what's to be corrected about it? That would have to be the question, I would think, what has to be corrected. And so
I just asked for further clarification.
further clarification of
Of my objection, my contradiction.
Well, then
then
if you were to put in the minutes, it seems like it would have to say that you were said there were contradiction with what you had versus what she had. So who's right? I mean, she has something saying one thing and you have something saying something else.
And I think we've outlined that there was a contradiction there between what the superintendent said and what the board members said. And, I mean, we have corrected, and your answer to your question, we have corrected minutes before where there's been an error in the date or something like that, and other issues, but I think we stated pretty clearly that you said there was a contradiction, or you said that you disagreed with the minutes, and there was a contradiction between what the superintendent was saying and what you were saying, and that's what's reflected in the minutes on the 7th. So, any other thoughts from any other board members?
Well, it says, let the record show that Mr. Moose expressed a contradiction to part of the minutes for the November 16th meeting. And he's asking now to have a little more, to be a little more specific, or what?
Yes, sir.
Well, could we put in there that his sources told him so-and-so, or is that too much, and our sources?
We did not have an entire document from him. You can take bits and pieces of emails and you can present it and spin it any way you want. We did not have an entire document from him. I reviewed it. If he wanted to present who initiated the email and the context and as they laid, that's one thing. That he provided tidbits. What I presented was information. He can either, he's now wanting to come in and say that he wants to debate what was past record. You're asking to approve past record of, and there is no dispute over what was presented. If he has some new information he wants to present and bring it before the board, I think that's something that you all can consider. But how do you dispute and debate past record? There was not an error in what I presented. I stand by what I presented, and it's past record. You either agree or disagree with it. I don't know how he can disagree that that's what I presented. What you're saying is you're approving the minutes of what I presented. I didn't present, so that's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for accuracy. I'm asking for that was the minutes. If he wants to bring it up and have a discussion, present his full document, and this board review it and go through it, you know, I don't know. I mean, but I think that if you're not careful, you're going to go down a slippery slope of debating everything that's presented, and you can't go back and change the minutes, no matter how much you want. If there's an error in the minutes, absolutely, vote on it, correct the error. But what I said, and there's no error in that. He may disagree with what I stated, but I still stated it, and it's still part of the record.
And he stated what he said.
And he stated what he
In the
said.
November 16th meeting, you stated that FEMA said that an H&H study was not necessary.
I presented you with
In
an
this
email.
meeting, I tried to clarify that,
I presented you with an email.
and I
It said that.
presented you with an email.
But the November 16th,
And Melissa is here if we need her as a parliamentarian on this. She is here by Skype or by Teams meeting, if you need anything on that.
Well, I think that we have stated clearly that we, in the December minutes, when we went to approve the November 16th minutes, that Mr. Moose voted against approval of those minutes. And he said why. You present information, he present information. There was a contradiction between the points, and that is reflected in the minutes for the December 7th meeting, which we're attempting to approve here tonight. So the issue is, was there a contradiction that night? Yes, there apparently was. He said one thing, you said another. Now, I
That
would
was in two separate meetings.
Yes,
That went in the same,
run into
went in the same meeting.
he contradicted on the meeting that was asking for approval, and then he asked to have his statement added.
right.
Well, I'm not sure how you add his statement because you can't correct what I stated. If he wants to make an additional statement and however you want to present it and move forward with on it, by all means. I mean, it's here, it's out, it's being discussed to death. It would have been easier just to say, okay, let's just do it, move on. But if you want to get the practice right and you want to do the proper procedure, you can't go back and deny what was said. It was said. Now, you might disagree with it. You might have additional information. You may want to present a new board meeting. You want to fully vet it and let this board have an opportunity to discuss and see who originated the email, the full context of it. I mean, I think that's something that, that's something this board may choose to do that Mr. Moose might like to do. I'm not debating that. And I'm not debating the authenticity of what he presented. All I'm saying is, when you're looking at what was presented, it was presented. And whether you liked it or don't like it, it was presented, it was the record.
Well, being that these meetings, these minutes are up for approval tonight, can we just vote on them and he vote nay? And then for the next minutes, could it be put in there why he had an objection to them?
Well, Mr. President, my objection is that you asked me to submit those documents to the Secretary so that my statement could be put into the minutes, and it was not. That's all I have to say.
We just
You
have some
took
samples.
screenshots of an email and you sent me screenshots. You didn't send me a document. You sent 3 or 4 different screenshots. And how was I supposed to decipher that?
If you have an entire document and you want to present the entire document, I don't know why, it may be something you say, this is the full document you want to enter into. But when you go in and you just give little sections, I can make heads or tails of it.
Well, why don't we just ask our attorney what she thinks?
Well, I think our job today is to either approve it or disapprove it. And then, if we want to bring that back up, bring it back up.
Well, I agree with
I mean, I don't think there's anything else.
But is that what our attorney thinks we should do?
The minutes are a record of what occurred at the last meeting. So if a statement was made at the last meeting, that statement was made. You can't erase that statement from the record. It's stated. And if you're going to allow information to be placed into the record that would show that was a contradiction, my recommendation to you would be that you have the entire document.
And appended to the minutes, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, and Mr. Reese, if you want to provide that, we can, what we can do is delay approval of those minutes, and then if you want to provide the entire document, then we can append it to the document and come back for approval. Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that would mean the entire, let's qualify on that, that would mean whatever communication you had in regard to that, everything that's involved with that needs to come and we'll attach it to that document. Because there was a contradiction between what you were presenting and what the superintendent was presenting.
So well, on the flip side of that, then there's
I
superintendent.
can present mine as well. I can
Absolutely.
bring it in and bring it in. So I think it needs to start, in all fairness, from the originator of the documents the originator of the email, copy it. I'll provide the same thing as the full documentation, because clearly there's a discrepancy. It's not between Mr. Moose and I, but it's between the information he received and the information I received. So I think it needs to go from whoever the originator was that got the answer for the email through the email thread. I'll provide mine. He can provide his attachment as well. But I don't think it's fair to take certain sentences and excerpts and expect someone to.
Try to make a,
Right, yes.
try to analyze that.
You can't authenticate that. Without the entire document, it can't be authenticated.
Okay, so,
You cannot what?
Authenticate it.
Without
I
the
think she's
entire.
talking about a document.
Yes, without the full document, you can't authenticate it.
Mr. Barry?
So, the other option, either you approve it or you don't, or you hold it.
Yeah.
What we will, I will ask that we just approve the November the 12th, and we will get a hold on December the 7th for the next meeting. He'll present all of the documentation in regard to that, and all the documentation she has. We'll put it to it, and then we can come back and vote to approve it or not approve it. Okay? Is that good with everybody? Okay. Having had that approval of the minutes of the meeting held on November the 12th of 2020, and we will hold on approval of the meeting minutes for December 7th, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the November the 12th, 2020 meeting? Mr. Amy moves. Is there a second?
So,
Mr. Berry seconds. Any further discussion in regard to the minutes for November the 12th? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, the motion passes unanimously. Recognitions, we have none for this evening. Item 5, discussion items and presentation. Mrs. Kaufman, would you pass one down? Madam Superintendent, we'll pass this around the other way. Here's another copy that you might need to know. And the superintendent's evaluation, the superintendent's in her 4th year of her contract, and we do have to have her evaluation completed by March the 31st. And so we're going to go ahead and begin that process. And this evening, you can read through the policy on the document with the clip on it. Go back about 6 or 8 pages, and you'll see the beginning of the evaluation. Okay, if you can turn back to this page, it looks like this. These aren't numbered, but it's the very first page that has the blocks on like this. Okay? This is the page where we're going to evaluate her goals and how she has met them. Notice that she has 2 goals listed on this page, on the single page. She has 2 goals listed there. And that first row of blocks is where you will evaluate goal number 1. And at the bottom, you'll evaluate goal number 2. Okay?
Is that page 6?
It is page 6. I'm sorry, there is a number there. Sorry. Madam Secretary, you did a good job.
Wasn't sure, but I thought they were not.
Now, beginning on page 7, okay, you have a series of modules that or sections that we evaluate the superintendent on, and that's on page 7. Okay. Now, as you look at each one of those, you will rate them as either put a check mark and exceed standards, meet standards, or does not meet standard, and then if you have a comment. Now, on some of these, let me say, some of them you may feel like, well, that really doesn't apply. If there's something you feel does not apply, overall, just on the margin on the far right side of the page, just put NA, does not apply, not apply. Okay, if you feel something doesn't apply. So, now this is section 2, starting on page 7, category 1. Okay, you have item A and B, and then on page H you have C, D, E, F, G, H, I. This is all in section 1. And J on the top of page 9. If you don't mind looking for just a second, after you have completed section 1, if you would, go back and tally just underneath that first column how many exceed standards. Like if you had 6 exceed standards, put a 6 there, or 4, or whatever it is, and then meet standards, total those up for section 1. Okay, are you with me? Is everybody with me? Are we okay? Is everybody good on this? See what I'm saying?
What's the page with total?
For section 1, it would be on page 9, okay? On page 9, you'll do section 1, okay? And then just total across there for that one section. How many exceed standards they got from A through J? How many meet standards, etc., across the page there, okay? Then you do the same thing for section 2, and you'll find that I think there are 8 sections of this evaluation, 9 sections of this evaluation form. And if you do that, just total it up at the end of each section. It's a major help when I try to pull all this together. So, you don't mind doing that? Now, if you have any questions, you give me a call, and I'll try to walk you through anything that, if you have any questions about anything. Now, what I will do is I will call for these, if you don't mind, to have those when we have our
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, we have a local school improvement council meeting. If you can have those by that date, I appreciate if you bring them with you, and then I can compile them. And then later in the meeting today, we will set a date to complete our evaluation. Okay?
Gus, I know it doesn't have any accommodation for the circumstances we've been in.
Yes.
And I understand, I think a person has to take that into account, I think.
Speaking of the current
The
situation.
educational situation for the past year,
Yeah.
since we did this last year.
It has been a real challenge.
I think that needs to be taken into account.
I would certainly agree
A
with
lot of this stuff ain't been under our control,
Yeah.
Donna's control. And we all know that students have not received the education that they should this past year, but it's not under the board's control,
In cases, that's
or
right.
the teachers, or the superintendent, or anybody.
I think Mr. Berry makes a very valid point. I think we do need to take into consideration the most unusual circumstances that I know I've ever seen in my career with education. So I think we need to take those into consideration as we're looking at that evaluation of the superintendent. So,
Dr.
Yes.
I misspoke. That meeting is on Monday,
That's fine.
January 11th.
If you don't do that, I'll also see.
oh, we're not going to do the evaluation. I just need the documents
Right,
back.
just the documents though. But
So,
I said Tuesday, it's on Monday.
It is Monday, that's right, Monday, January the 11th. That's next Monday, we have an LSIC meeting.
Summersville Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
Was that not a play? What?
It was originally, I
No,
think.
this is the next one in line. You guys have
Oh, we
to,
skipped that one, this was the
you guys will
third.
need to reschedule that one.
That's right. And we'll do, that's item F down there on the, or well, regular, item E on the, number 13, we'll readjust the schedule there for that meeting. Okay, are there any questions? And if, like I said, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to call me and I can walk you through this. But I appreciate if you take a look at that over this next week.
Who gets this, you?
I do. And then what I do then is I compile all the totals from everybody's evaluation. And then we have to set a date for a meeting with the superintendent specifically to discuss her evaluation as well as, looking at the potential renewal of her contract. So we'll be doing that. We'll be setting a date later in the meeting this evening. Item 6, action items. Approval of the MOU with Western Governors University for student teachers. Mrs. Atkins, is that you?
Yes, that is correct. This is just a standard student teaching agreement with several students who are several potential student teachers who are students at Western Governors University, and this just allows us to place them in student teaching positions within our school.
And we have done this in the past, as you said, so yes.
Correct.
Are the teachers compensated in any way for overseeing these student teachers?
Did you have a question?
Yeah, not for student teaching, no.
I thought they were.
Well, I think we're getting this a little bit confused with a teacher that's serving as a mentor teacher.
Right, we're a teacher in residence. Teacher in residence are compensated. So we've had, in the past, we've had people who were eligible for student teacher placement, but because we had a shortage, they were actually allowed to come in and teach the teachers. In those instances are compensated. But if they're just fulfilling their general student teaching placement, they are not compensated, and I'm not aware of any county that compensates them.
Well, I didn't mean the student teacher, I meant the teacher supervisor.
He's asking the question, does the supervising teacher receive any compensation? Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Not my knowledge.
They used to be.
That's what I was thinking, we used to, I know I've had them
No, we do not pay mentor teachers anything at this point.
We're not a mentor teacher.
When I was a teacher, I had a student teacher and I got compensated. Not through the county, through the college, I
I
think.
did too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
When you were a student teacher?
No, I was a teacher and I
It
had a
wasn't enough because I
student
had Rocket.
But what's your compensation came from the college, is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, yeah, that's been 30 or 40 years ago.
It just doesn't come from the county.
It doesn't come from the county. Mr. Wish, do you remember getting yours from the county? I mean, from the school system, from the college?
No, sir.
Do you remember getting yours from the college or?
College?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So there may be compensation from the college.
Dr. Finnick, you will look under D, WGU responsibilities. There about the second bullet point, it says that WGU will pay an honorarium for teacher candidate either directly to the cooperating teacher or to the district for the cooperating teacher services. So according to this contract, WGU a teacher honorarium for supervising the teacher.
I think that's what we were talking about.
Okay.
If they were not paid a little bit, it'd be hard for the principal to find a teacher to take it. So it calls for Gregory.
Any further questions in regard to item A under action items, approval of the MOU with Western Governors University for the student teachers? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve action item A as presented?
Make a motion.
Mr. Berry moves. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Mr. Amick seconds. Any further discussion in regards to the MOU with Western Governors University for student teachers?
Well, there's one thing that I like that was in this article. If I can get it to what they say, which is so true with our teachers. To be a successful student, you need to have a good team. what better choice than to have a school that is completely on your team? So, a lot of truth to that for our team. I just wanted to add that. I caught that when I was looking through there.
We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, the motion passes unanimously. Hey, Chris, could you take a look? I cannot get online for some reason.
Yeah. You've got the same problem I have.
I always able to get online. So, there's problems, right? Consent items, item 7, Mr. Hess, finance items.
Okay. First item on the finance agenda is payment of current invoices. If you had any questions there. You're looking at those, I'm going to pass out a change order that is on the agenda, but I did not have it in hand until today.
Fair enough.
Trying to
Kim?
Thank you, sir.
Kevin,
Yes, sir.
that on this AIA, last from previous present, it was
Yeah, there's two.
$20,000.
There's two of them. This, the first, that one you had there was Safeco that's already on the agenda, and this one is Modular Genius.
Oh,
So it's two separate.
Okay. Anyway, there was a $20,000 difference on that. Was that because of, there was no,
That's
in the test?
Yeah.
There was a small percentage in a couple of them.
Right, the abatement was not necessary to the extent that they originally thought, so they reduced the contract.
Kevin, I don't guess there's a concrete answer, but I'm always amazed at the utilities, the water bills throughout the county. They just vary so much.
They do, typically they, you would think this would be on a schedule. You would get all of the same ones on the same time frame. And for the most part, we do. However, you might see that we have included maybe something that didn't come in or we didn't get it in the system in time. So the next time you see it, it may include the same ones as before, but plus 2 or 3 schools or minus 2 or 3 schools. So it's not exactly the same schools every single month. If it were, we monitor that, and even through the maintenance department, they monitor those utilities to look for potential leaks as far as water goes. And so hopefully we've caught it before we get a bill. But yes, you will see probably most of the fluctuations will be dependent upon weather conditions and timing of the invoice.
Kevin, did we ever get a leak adjustment on the big lake we had up at the, was that the stadium or?
I don't know, where did we have a big leak at?
The most recent overconsumption was Richwood High School.
No, this one was up here. It was either the stadium.
There was one.
Or it was going out to the field at the.
There was one that it left NCHS and went to the baseball field. That was probably a year or so ago. And I gave documentation to the appropriate people on that one. And then the other one, probably about 3 or 4 months ago, left the bus garage and went down to the wellness center around the concession stand. Okay, those have both been fixed, and we've done everything the city told us to do as far as proving they're fixed. but I don't know about reimbursement because both of those where our line had broken. So I don't know if the city reimburses us if our line broke.
Yes, they do. That's
They
when
would
you
on the
get
sewer.
reimbursed, if it's under, in the ground, but if it's like you have a commode stock or something like that, no, that's not. But if it's under the ground where you can't see it, and you fix it, you're entitled to a leak adjustment.
Both of those were in the ground. Both of them would have been on, one of them would have been on the bus garage bill, and one of them would have been on NCHS's bill. And NCHS is probably a year old, and bus garage is probably 6 months old.
Yeah, we follow up with those, if we are told that there was a leak, we follow up with the water department to see if they will credit us some back whenever possible. So
And
if
one
they're
more
that
thing-
old, I'm sure we've already addressed that issue.
Well, one more thing Mr. Amick asked about. This past week, that's all you asked about, Dad. Past week, I've been prying around in bills, okay? You're supposed to use 8 gallons per person in the building per day, okay? For example, Mount Lookout should use about 30,000 gallons per cycle, because Mount Lookout has 150 kids, okay? Whereas Zila and Mount Nebo only have like 90 kids. So their consumption should be less. As far as how much each utility charges us, I don't, that's up to them, I guess. But as far as our schools using about the appropriate amount, we're about where we should be if you base it on, because I was told we should be 8 gallons per day per student. And right now, we're about on with that.
But you haven't had the students in school.
Yeah, I count days in school. Yes, you're exactly
Okay.
right. Yeah, it's not like I counted, every day. You know what I mean? Yeah, you're exactly right.
But I think you need to have, I think you need to call the water department and ask them if they did give you a leak adjustment on that.
Okay, yeah, we certainly, I will follow up with them and see.
That was part of the leak.
And some of the water systems have different rates too.
Yes.
And I think Rocky was the loser of that. So it wouldn't be the same for each
No.
one.
So it's bus garage leak, and what was the first one?
NCHS, I'll give you dates here soon. I got it up.
Just-
What they just need to do that is you just need to provide documentation that you at least bought the materials sufficient and it's.
I remember him bringing that to me. so
Sherry has it all.
I feel pretty confident we've already looked at it, but I'll double check to make sure.
I think I did ask Sherry about it, and she told me that she had talked to, I guess, James at the water department. He said, that they got the materials and stuff fixed, that he was aware of it, and he would give that, but whether they actually did or not, I mean, if you don't remind them, I'm sure it's slip through.
Yeah,
I'll at
we'll-
least check.
We'll double check it, certainly. Any other questions on payment of current invoices?
I was going to ask you about the payment to the governor. Is that everything we owe him?
That is payment in full, yes.
Payment in full.
I'm sorry, did you say pay in full?
Yes, paid in full.
It's $3,947,660.
Now, you probably got it, I'm not sure how Kim did it, but you probably got a second attachment of some other invoices that we paid later.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I got it before I scanned it,
Oh,
I got them
so they got it all in
together.
one slide, okay, good.
On page 27, ZMM received $89,433 for Cherry River and Blade, and that was September. Are they going to receive the same installments in October, November, December, or what is that?
It varies depending on the services that they provided. So we currently have October, November in the system through SBA and through DSM to be approved. And so whatever, they wouldn't have billed that exact amount, but depending on the services rendered, it was processed and sent through the system. So it could be 30,000, it could be 100,000, it just depends on what they did that month.
Okay, they've got 90 days to complete their contract at Cherry River. for $1,800,000, I believe. Will that contract be extended? Will they reduce their costs, or will they get the same amount?
No, the contract has to be, it will be evaluated and extended because of the delay in the work that occurred in getting the H&H study, which is still not back. So the work, we can't hold the company to a contract amount of stating it has to be done in X amount of time if there's other things that prevent the company from doing the work. So we will have to give an extension.
They're working every day now.
Well, if it's not done, you have to give an extension. And the H&H study is not done. So we cannot finish the work. We cannot finish the work along the river. We can't finish the, I've got several pictures. The H&H study, we don't have the permit. So until that study is completed and we receive the permit, you know, we're not going to be eligible to get full reimbursement from FEMA. So, you know, if you just, we can't hold them to it if it's not ready. And there was change orders in place because of the needing the underground water system where the flow was supposed to go from directly into Cherry River with the original design. And when it came back for the permitting, it had about a $250,000 increase because we had to have an elaborate water retention system underneath the parking lot. So there's been a lot of variables that's happened there. And because of that, of course, you have to have an extension.
Well, the H&H study was projected to be finished by December 15th. Who's responsible for the H&H study?
Terradon.
Who?
Terradon is the construction company.
And why is it not complete?
That was the time that they were hoping for. There was never a promise that it would be completed by then. It was by hopeful by mid-December. They were shooting for by the end of December, and today I was advised January the 11th.
Also, Kevin, is ZMM, are they're still paying for like several other contracts?
Under their contract, they have some professional services that are included,
Like
like Terradon and ScanScan.
So they're being paid for that and they pay those people?
Yes.
That's why, like, the ZMM invoice was it was $80-some thousand, but it included those other professional services as well.
I knew that we were doing that at first. I didn't know it was still like that or not.
A lot of things when it comes to contracts and time as well. You know, there's all, you know, any change order can warrant additional time. Any delays in the project can warrant additional time. Weather can warrant additional time. It's really kind of difficult sometimes to justify any type of liquidating damages when a contractor, well, the contractor basically has to prove, hey, we had 10 work days due to weather that we weren't able to work, so we need 10 additional days on the contract. So we don't really get into that very often unless, you know, if everything would go perfectly and the contractor is delinquent in or not doing their job, then we would pursue that, certainly. But more times than not, there's always justification as to why they didn't get done on time.
And that's something that's done in the construction process. They provide that justification. Like now, the plants are closed, so we can't have the paving work done. So when the plants open back up, the paving will you know, start and get that finished.
That's not the usual marches.
Correct. And we have a construction management team that's on this and someone that's actually stationed there and monitoring, and they will, if there is an issue with you know, time completion, they'll address it. But at this time, we do not know of any thing that would be negligent or that company is doing wrong to say that, you know, that they're not within their bounds of what they're doing with time.
So when the H&H study's done, then you'll be able to meet with the Richwood Council
I'm not, that's something that the architect had a conversation, sent an email back, and he has worked with the consultant, and the consultant and the architect said that as long as this was completed, it would be issued.
And then the permit, then they'll apply for the permit.
Well, they've already applied for it, but it's from what the.
But everything's being held up by the H&H.
The H&H study.
Okay.
Finance, let's get back to finance. Go ahead.
Any other questions on payment of current invoices? We had a few, item 2 is the treasurer's report. And so I'll review that quickly with you if you'd like. For the month of November. Okay. All right, so for the month of November, the first page you see there is the general fund. And we have a $56.7 million budget. $14.9 million have been received thus far. We have 42.6 budget balance. And so that's only 24%. We're about close to 50% through the year. So that sounds like we don't have all the revenue on schedule, but a lot of those revenues are things that are, not a lot, but some of that revenue is booked at various times throughout the year. And so it skews that percentage just a little bit and makes that percentage amount seem lower than it actually is. But as far as state aid and our local real estate taxes, those are on schedule and without delay. The debt service account, of course, has no revenues to report. The capital projects fund, $175 million budget. We've received just over $3 million. We have $172 million to receive. Of course, most of that is on the project 928, our school project. The bottom of that page shows our cash balances in each fund, and then how we have that invested to the right on the right-hand column here. So that next page is the special revenues. $11.2 million budget. We've received just over $2 million, which means we have $9.2 million received. Those are your federal and your state grants, and so we're reimbursed as we spend those. So that's kind of how that works. So the percentage doesn't really work very well with that one either. However, generally fall pretty close to what it should be. But with this being out of school, those federal and state funds aren't being spent as quickly as they normally are. The stimulus monies, $1.2 million grant. We received $930,000. We have $318,000 yet to receive on those funds. Then if we look at the expenditures, again, a $56.7 million budget. We've spent $10.3 million. We have $18.7 million remaining in payroll, which leaves about $27.5 million in our budget balance. And we have committed approximately 51% of our budget. So on that note, our percentages are working out pretty well. Next page is your capital projects. Expenditures, $175 million budget. We've spent $1.3 million and have a budget balance of $174,426,000. Finally, the special revenue expenditures, $11.2 million budget. We've spent $2.3 million. Payroll is estimated at $3.3 million for the remainder of the year, with a budget balance of $5.5 million, or 51% of our budget.
Ken, just a second. I thought you were speaking about the capital improvements.
Uh-huh.
That is the one where you're talking about debt service. And the capital projects on that same page, right?
Yes, yes.
This copy right here.
Where is it? Where is it? I'm not seeing it.
Oh, your call report. Oh, did you have the treasurer's report?
That's the one that says SBA major improvement project.
I don't think she has that on the machine. She doesn't have the treasurer's report on her. Well, I did.
Well, that's weird. How would you have it if she don't have
Wait a minute.
it? Chris?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Wait a minute. Somehow I was back on the wrong page. Okay, I got you now. Thank you.
Technical error.
Okay, I got it.
Machine messed up.
Are we, on page 7, it says FEMA 428 plan year-to-date expenditures $805,000. How's that possible?
That is the expenditures that we've incurred from July 1 through November 30th. So we've had expenditures in the previous year, but that's only current year expenditures.
So July is the beginning of your fiscal year.
Yeah, this report just runs on a fiscal calendar, which makes it kind of odd to see where we really are. Like you'll see there, the current budget balance for expenditures is $171 million. That's because it originally was $177 million, but that's because we had spent $6 million in the previous year or years. So every year you'll see this is what our new budget is for that year.
Okay, thank you.
The very last one there is our stimulus federal funds, our CARES Act money, $1.2 million budget again. We've spent $809,000 coded to that project. We have $25.5 million in, I'm sorry, 25,000. I looked at too many numbers. $25,000 encumbered, and so $413,000 available through those funds. So we're working with Tony now to do some reconciling of where we stand on that project exactly, and he's got some ideas. We originally budgeted, I can't remember the number, but so much for the private schools, and then private schools were funded separately, and so that freed up the money that we originally budgeted for those private schools to come back into the county. And so we're looking for opportunities to spend that. And he has some great ideas already. Item 3, supplements and transfers. We have just a few of those. The first one is a high cost, high acuity state special ed grant, $2,007, and we budgeted that into supplies. We have a federal high cost, high acuity grant for $1,188, and that's budgeted into supplies as well. The next one is electronic resource funding, $10,592. That's at the Career Center, and that's for software. And then the next one is Teacher of the Year, $300, and that's budgeted for supplies. And then we have a Save the Children, looks like, yeah, Save the Children grant for Gully River and Somersville Elementary, $194,197.02. And so that's budgeted. Between those two schools, just looking down through it, most of it is budgeted, almost exclusively budgeted into salaries, supplemental salaries. There's 11,000, 12, 23, probably about 25. Looks like about $26,000 of the 194 is budgeted to supplies, but everything else is into supplemental salaries. That's your supplements and transfers. Under contracts, we have 2 change orders. The first one is Safeco, and that was with the Glade Creek site. You'll notice that is a $20,000 reduction, and that's from $125,000 down to $105,000. And that was just the cost of the abatement removal on asbestos was not as extensive as they thought it would be, and so therefore they reduced our bill. The next one is a change order that I handed out to you, and you're going to see two more of these come later in this school year, but they are for the modular schools. Summersville Middle School, Richwood High, and Richwood Middle all have modular schools. This school in particular, the Summersville Middle School location with Modular Genius, their contract, we're estimating that the completion date of the new school will be in June of 2024, so it required an extension of this contract by 42 months. And so they projected that for the school part of that to be $2,076,955.86. In addition to the school, we have a separate lease agreement for the kitchen, and so it was on a different time frame than this lease agreement because it was installed at a later date. So I asked Modular Genius to basically nullify the previous length on the original contract and bring it into consistency with this one. So we've done that. The rental agreement is the same rent for every month as it has been in the past for both the school and the kitchen, but it's $9,891 for 42 months, which is $415,422. Now, one of the other additional costs that we're going to have to incur, which should be fully reimbursed by FEMA, is the removal costs of the schools when we're done with them. This original estimate, which would have been for only 48 months, was estimated in our original documents, and so now that we're extending it an additional 42 months, it's going to cost more due to inflation to remove those things. So for the school part, they're estimated, or they have a change order amount of $84,265 additional dollars on restoration, and then $24,932 on restoration of the kitchen. So the grand total of this change order for an additional 42 months of rent is $2,601,574.86. To bring,
we've been projecting a 3-year period for completion. Will this be reduced if it's less than 42 months?
If it's less than 42 months, we've talked with the contractor, and yes, they are going to work with us. If we're done 6 months early, we just have to give them a 30 or 60-day notice.
Is this for all the modulars or just Summersville Middle?
That's just Summersville Middle.
And this is totally all reimbursable by FEMA.
Yes, it should. Yes, it should be 100% reimbursed.
So this contract has to go through them, of course. They have to know this.
I've already talked to FEMA and SBA about this this requirement, essentially, to retain and keep these modular schools, and they've directed us to proceed as necessary.
And this is not part of the 428 funds?
Yeah,
This doesn't come out of the building construction.
No.
we just need to keep making forward progress on everything.
Yes.
Now, yeah, in the event that things would stop beyond our, or that was within our control, then that may throw up an issue where FEMA says, no, you weren't providing continual forward progress, and therefore we're not going to reimburse you for that additional time.
So if the board would come in and say, stop, we do not like what's happening when these projects stop. Well, at that time, FEMA could deem that as not making adequate progress, which means they would stop paying $100,000 a month rent, and that's kind of issue. But if we're making adequate progress, it's not an issue.
Thank you.
One thing that I want to clarify with this, which is still in question, that we're still researching, but just due to the timeliness of this change order, I want to go ahead and ask the board to approve it as presented. However, there's one area that we're still in question about that we hope to get resolved by tomorrow. If you'll look, well, I read to you, but in the Modular Genius section of their estimated costs, under exclusions, item 1, it says below-grade concrete footings and underground utilities will be left in the ground.
What page, Chris?
Page, it says page 2 of 3, but it's
Second page.
actually down about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 6th page down. And it's item number 1 under exclusions.
Okay.
And it says below-grade concrete footings and underground utilities will be left in the ground. Talked to our engineer today, and he said he felt confident that in the original document that the restoration of this site would be back to its original condition. And so, and that's what's familiar to me, what we would have wanted, and
They were to take those out.
yes,
Yeah.
right. And so that sparked another conversation with Modular Genius this afternoon, and no one can put their finger on that at the 11th hour here, but we will in the morning. We feel like the original contract included the removal of those footings. And I spoke to Modular Genius about that, and he said if the original contract stated that, then we will remove those as cited in the original contract, and we will simply strike this line from the exclusion off of this change order. However, if we find that, and in all fairness to the contractor, if in fact in the original contract there was an exclusion and it wasn't included and it was okay to leave those concrete footings in the ground, and it was bid that way, or the spec said that, then there's no cost allocation for that removal. And so therefore, this line would stay in place. And so contractors, I think there's a general consensus of the administration, we wanted those back out of the ground. And so I told him that was our desire, and he said, well, if it's not in the original contract, we can do another change order and we'll pull that stuff out of the ground. So it boils down to, if it was in the original contract, they're going to cover it, they're going to pull them out. If it wasn't in the original contract and we still want them out, they will provide an additional change order at some point in the future, and then we'll have them pulled out. It's going to be reimbursed by FEMA. I don't know why we wouldn't want them out of the ground. So,
Yeah, it may be in the way where we have to reconstruct like Richwood there.
well, now, this is only on the Summersville Middle School.
We're just talking about Summersville.
Just on that practice field. And it may always be a practice field, but there are a ton of pilings, concrete pilings in the ground there.
Yeah.
And so that's just another headache that we'll have to deal with down the road if we ever decide to do anything with that property. And I think it's my recommendation, I think probably Rockies too, to pull those out of the ground
Oh,
if
yeah.
possible.
Yeah, if you wanted to dig in there, it'd be a problem.
You better look at the Richwood contract also to see if it includes.
Yeah, I think it might be in the way there too.
I certainly will.
They all were supposed to have been.
Yeah, I can't imagine them writing specs.
I know we
about it.
talked about it.
Yeah, that was the specs. That's
Decided
what
it
it
was
was.
part of it.
I didn't want to challenge
Property and all that.
the contractor today on the phone because I didn't have it in front of me, but, and he was, this is a great company to work with.
Yeah.
He said if it's in there, we'll cover it. Not a
And if
problem.
not, FEMA, it'll be covered, because
Right.
they have to restore it back to its original.
Right. So I would ask the board to approve this change order for the amount specified and giving us the flexibility to strike or leave this exclusion line in this change order based upon language that was in the original contract.
Okay, and just further clarification, so if it's in the original language, it's out of there, we're good, but if not, we'll go back and we'll do an additional contract.
If-
And
right.
we
Change
do-
order.
Right, if it's not in there, we'll leave that line in there under exclusions, and we'll be back to you within 42 months for another change order to take them out.
This is all reimbursable.
Yeah, should be.
Okay, any further questions in regard to that?
Final item is surplus property, which is just a few things there. I think it's Mount Lookout Elementary, which has some electronic equipment that they no longer need.
Then it's auctioned off.
That is actually collected by an electronic surplus company that we work with, and so they pay us so much per unit for each one of those.
I just noticed there were some tables in there that said they were in excellent condition. Well, I didn't know if those would be auctioned or sent to another school.
If it's not electronic, they'll be offered to any other school that would like them. And then if we're unable to find a home for them, they will be auctioned.
Any further questions for Mr. Hess in regard to consent items on finance? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve consent item A as presented this evening?
So moved.
Mr. Raymond moves. Is there a second to the motion? Mrs. Kaufman seconds the motion. Any further discussion in regard to consent item A, finance? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, the motion passes unanimously. Personnel, Mrs. Atkins, Madam Superintendent, board members, is there a need for an executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters?
No.
No.
All right.
I believe Ms. Paletto provided copies of the updated personnel agenda. I will read those changes now. Under professional, for Desi Burrell, we changed the effective date to January 19, 2021. For under service, for Deanna Sweeney in the position of the aide at Somerville Elementary School, that effective date has been changed to January 21st, 2021. Mary Queener is the candidate to employ in the position of Early Steps Family and Community Engagement Liaison for Cherry River Elementary School, effective January 5th, 2021. We did not have any applications for academic coach at Ridgewood High School, so I will be reposting that position tomorrow. Under consent, we had an additional thing. Approve the voluntary transfer of Bruce Dietz from his current position as English teacher at Somerville Middle School to math teacher at the same school to be effective January 19, 2021, pursuant to West Virginia Code 18A-7-7AU. And also on page 3 are leave requests of various employees. I will not read those aloud to protect the privacy of our employees. I also believe that an updated version of the personnel agenda has been made available to members of the press and the public present.
What's the effective date for Zach Lyons, number 1?
Upon release from Braxton County Schools, via Braxton County Board of Education. So until they release him, he can't come here. So probably, more than likely, it will be the beginning of the next.
That's common, most counties will.
But
He probably will not be able to start until the beginning of the next calendar year, next school year. Most school systems will not release during the mid-year, and we have to go ahead and hire. The board we recommend the hiring, and then if the county is able to replace the person prior to, they'll release them and they can come mid-year. But more than likely, he won't be able to start till next year.
But they could release in that semester.
They could, yeah. If they have someone else who applies, they could.
Currently in this position, we have a substitute teacher. Is that correct, Mrs. Atkins?
That is correct. And we've had a substitute in that position for well over a year.
Okay.
And we're lucky to have a fellow Nicholas County and come back and wanting to stay in the county to teach, so.
Good. Any further questions for Mrs. Atkins in regard to personnel? Ray, you do have a copy,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the personnel agenda as presented this evening? Mrs. Kaufman moves. Is there a second to the motion? Second. Mr. Berry seconds. Any further discussion in regard to the personnel agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, the motion passes unanimously. Item 9, superintendent's information regarding construction planning and architectural updates.
I am meeting weekly with the architect and construction manager to work on the progress of Glade Creek, the school is located in Glade Creek. We have actually accomplished a lot. I have had Tom Bayless and 2 of his staff members have been very instrumental in assisting with this work. So we've been going down Fridays to meet. I have also invited, I have had the high school principal, middle school principal with me as well. Gave some draft plans to those principals to share with the athletic directors, as well as, and for the athletic directors to share plans with the coaches to get input on how the fields are laid out on the campus. We are continuing to work the design. The shape is still exactly as it appears on the sheet in front of you. The campus is a little more complete as far as the fields and the practice fields. The square footages, all of that's being calculated now, and we feel confident with the footprint, so they're actually working on the grading package. The plan is to have the grading package out in February. So if it's finished in February and goes out for bid, we should be able to, hopefully start March, April with dozing the site, leveling, and doing all the site work that needs to be accomplished for this facility. I'm hopeful to have 3D plans ready to show you, and when I do, we will pull together the Cherry River campus and Glade Creek campus and show both sites. Actually finishing up the work on the Cherry River campus as we speak, but we're moving along.
Are the blueprints available?
No, they're not. Not until I get, they're still in draft. You're welcome to come look at anything that I have. I'm just not prepared to share it, to present it to the board. I'm not prepared to present it to the public. It's in draft, and I plan to present it to the board both at the same time. And so we're progressing. You're welcome to look at it. I just don't want to get information out prior to everything being complete. Again, if you want to look at it, you're welcome to come look. I've shared, plans with the teachers. But as far as presenting it and getting it out as an official document, it is not official. It's just in draft format.
I think Mr. Berry and Mr. Angle, correct me if I'm wrong, said that they'd like to hear from the engineers periodically. Are we going to be able to do that?
Sure. The engineer, once he gets everything put together this Friday, he's hoping to pull together the square footages, and then he will come present. He can actually do it at the next board meeting. He was going to come to this board meeting But since this one was immediately after break, he wanted more time to work on the square footages, and then he can come and speak. But what I'm asking him to do when he'll speak, I'm not sure how much he can physically present at that time, but he will speak to, the progress that we've made. But what I'm in hopes of, within the next few weeks, that we actually have some 3D plans. That's what I'm asking for, so that we can have pictures that we can share and get all this out for everyone to see and it be final, because one of the challenges, even with the renditions in front of you, there's been changes to it, and it's different, but the shape is still the same. It's just not in final format.
So would that be at the January 19th meeting, the next regular meeting, or?
Yeah, I can ask him his schedule. He said that if we needed to call and talk to him, he could, he would be happy to talk. But as far as coming up tonight, he didn't come up today for a daily meeting even. Just coming back from Christmas break and stuff, COVID in mind, a lot of people are leery about coming out too soon after being around other people, and I understand that. So, but he will come up, present, answer any questions you have. But these plans, there's some things that, that I'm discussing with the principals this Friday when I take the principals down. I'm going to ask them if they want to bring their athletic directors with them to look at things, to get the input. Same thing I did with the Ridgewood area schools. But of course, all that was before you got on the board, so you weren't privy to it, I know. But same process we did with Ridgewood area schools, and we're going to be doing with the school.
Gus, could we call some workshops to, have a meeting with him, and maybe the principals and whoever others might want to make comments?
He said he could definitely come up, and the principals, like I said, they've been involved with it. And as far as their teachers, I've asked them at this point, the classrooms would all be standardized. When it gets into the chemistry labs, getting input, because what we're trying to follow is policy 6200, and try to stay as consistent with them, because one of the things architects cautioned us about in building new schools, that if you tailor to a particular person's interest and that person leaves the school system or transfers to another grade or another school the following year or retires, then you've got things that's specific to that person and not as a general. And he said that's why 6200 is in place, and so he's trying to keep it general. But as far as getting the involvement, he definitely, I can get him up here, whatever. I think there's some discussions you guys are going to want to weigh in on, such as the gender specific restrooms. One of the things that was mentioned to me about a year ago from one of our attorneys is be cognizant of gender neutral restrooms with the new facility. If you have individual stalls in like individual restrooms, then you don't have to identify gender. There's been a lot of discussion about gender fluid, non-binary. There's a lot of different gender identities that people choose to use different restrooms. It causes a lot of discussion. But if we have gender neutral restrooms, you won't have any type of situations like that. Which means that it would, instead of going into a restroom, like a bank of restrooms for female or bank of restrooms for male, it would be, you're within your hallway or within your academy, you would have just a restroom door. You would walk into a single stall restroom. So those are some of the things that, you guys need to think about, your feelings on that. as far as he stayed consistent with this board's thoughts on the look and feel of the facility with the original design that's on the board. He stayed real consistent with that. You know, whatever the board wants to do, and Mr. Berry, one of the things that we did do with the Ridgewood area schools is he came up and he did this last time. He came in and presented to teachers. Teachers got to look at the plans, and then any board members that wanted to come, you know, could come and listen to the, you know, comments or whatever. So it's kind of what you're talking about. That would be the next step.
We will be notified of those meetings so we can attend.
Yeah, sure will.
If there are changes, does that have to be resubmitted to the SBA? And does this board have to approve any changes?
What changes are you speaking of?
Changes in the design or any changes in the plan?
If we go outside of the scope of work, we will submit a change within our scope of work. So anything outside of our scope of work, we'll have to submit a change. And anything outside of the environmental assessment, we would have to. But we are staying all within the environmentally assessed area. And I think the addition of a couple of practice fields will be, you know, added to the scope. As far as the footprint, you know, there's an outline of that. They don't have the details of the construction of it. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question.
I'm just wondering if there's a change, what is the order of
we would work, okay, we would work
will it
with.
come to the board and then go to the SBA?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Board
Yes.
first, then SBA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if there's, and once we get to this, that's what I'm saying, we're still at that draft stage. We're not at the stage to present. So once everything gets finalized into a plan that's manageable for this board, because he has continued to work off of the concept that this board gave direction on, you know, the earlier meetings. That's what he's continued to stay consistent with. Once he pulls that together and presents it, if it varies, like some of those practice fields, the scope of work will ask to add the practice fields or whatever within that scope of work. I'll present that to this board to see if this board is in agreement with this change in the scope of work, because the board already voted on the scope of work that's been presented. And then if this board approves the scope of work of what we're wanting to have changed, I'll present it to the SBA, and the SBA will present it to DSHM, and it will be presented to FEMA. That's the process. I can't do it on my own. This is a decision that this board has to make. And that's where this board will have the final decision on the plans. So that's why as soon as these plans get brought up, this board will see those plans and you know, whatever kind of sessions. I think the sessions that Mr. Berry's talking about is what sessions that we had at Ridgewood. Is that what you're referring to with the principals and the teachers? And
Yeah, you mean, I just mentioned about maybe calling a work session.
yeah, we didn't actually have it as a work session. We just went to the schools and met with
Well,
them.
maybe if we don't have to, I mean, we don't, yeah.
Well, there wasn't, at that time, just like when we had the meeting, Mr. Moose wanted to have at Cherry River to look at that area.
Yeah,
There wasn't 3 board members that wanted to attend.
right.
So, you know, they just came, Mr. Moose came, then I think
I think we're there at different times.
you were there at different times, and it was you. I think it was just the 2 of you that came then.
Dr. Pennington.
Yeah,
Oh, you were there, yeah. So that was it. Came in on site and reviewed.
But that
And-
was just outside. He didn't have anything on the plans for the building itself.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that's the same process we used when we went in and met with the teachers. The architect rolled out the plans to the teachers and the principals and discussed it and said, what do you think about this? Do you like this? does this look large enough? How about these rooms? Went through and had discussions with everyone. So we didn't have to call a work session to do that. That was just bringing it in and showing the plans.
Well, any way we can do it,
But-
whatever.
Yeah. Now, if it's something that, you know, all of you want to be in attendance at once, then yeah, I think we would have to call it. But if some want to attend, and like I said, it's just ultimately however you want to do it. If I'm understanding, so I'm asking a lot of questions because I'm not sure if I'm understanding exactly.
You were, you know, talking about the bathrooms.
Yeah.
And we talked about it before, but
Yeah.
I think Congress is getting ready to vote on whether or not to do away with gender references, like father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, boy,
Everything
girl,
is gender specific, yeah, you're right.
and it will all be it's.
Wexton or something.
Some of us are itty.
It's just, you know,
That's,
they're out on the end of the limb, I'd say.
well, that's why we're trying to get out in front of this with the buildings and schools to say, you know, it's gender neutral. I mean, it's, like I said, but I think that when he comes up, yeah, I'm in hopes that he can bring something. I'm hoping that he is at the stage and he can bring something so that you all can look at it and give your thoughts. Like I said, I can give you very general ideas. If you want to stop in and look at the stuff I have, I'm happy to share it with you. I've shared it with the teachers and the principals.
For him to put out the bid on the grading package, he just has to have the footprints out, correct?
He has to have the footprint right. So the grading package will be 80 acres. So, and it's within a defined, we have a very defined boundary from environmental assessment that goes out. So the 80 acres is within that defined area.
So if he's intending to come to the board meeting on the 19th, correct?
Yes, he
Which
said
is
he
a
would.
regularly scheduled meeting of the board, and we can talk to him at that time about progress, where he is, what he has for us to see at that time.
Yes,
Then we can work out the details of whether we want to have call a meeting if all 5
Yes.
board members, or whether we're going to do just informational and do it as a work session. We can work that out at
Yep.
that particular time.
Any way you all want to do it, we'll
On the
accommodate.
19th, he's planning on being here to speak to the board at that time as a board.
Yes, yes. See, I'm sure I will verify with him. It was just, this wasn't the best timing when people didn't want to get together today, coming off break. And I quite honestly didn't know if the board would want to come together, you know, just come off break. But he can, so if you have questions, or if you know in advance particular questions that you would like to have, that, you know, I can get to him, so he can be prepared to answer them by the time you get here. Or by the time he gets here, I can get those to him, because, you know, you may have a lot of questions. And if he knows in advance, he can prepare and, you know, provide you with whatever you need.
Any further questions for the superintendent in regard to the construction plan?
I have a question for the superintendent, not for the construction, but I've been approached by 2 different sets of parents. They have their children enrolled in the computer classes with other school systems, you know, like the Christian school and things like that. And they asked me, would the credits that they have when they go start in the 9th grade or the 10th grade, would the classes that they have, would they be approved? And I said that all public schools follow the directive of the state board of the classes. I said, however, it could be, and this is what I'm asking you if I said the right thing, it could be, for example, Bible, if that would be approved for an elective. Because
Is Tammy here? Tammy left. No, she's on the Teams meeting. Tammy is the one, I don't know if there's anyone else here that's really versed in it. I'm not, to be honest with you, I'm not as versed in that. I can look it up, I can get you the answer. Middle school was a whole lot different than high school. Coming in at the high school level, looking at the graduation credits and making sure that I can, if you have someone that, you know, you want us to reach out to, we can certainly reach out to them and give them guidance. If you want to give me the names, we can do that. If you want to answer, you know, at the next board meeting to be shared publicly, I can do that. But Tammy would be
It may
one.
be a public, maybe other people would be wanting to know. But I think that we're under the guidelines of the state, which I know,
Right.
and anybody coming into our system, they have to have those classes. It's mandatory before they can graduate.
Right. High school, yes, yes.
But there may be a little flexibility for them for the electives that you get. I'm talking high school.
Uh-huh.
That might be okay.
Well, high school electives could definitely be varied. It's those core content areas that they, you know, that are the most rigid. I mean, the others, the additional hours for the electives, those can be locally approved. They don't have to be state approved. So those definitely can be locally approved if they have the core content that's needed for graduation.
Yeah, where we have the high school can have a Bible class as an elective.
Do we have them?
Did we have that?
Not since I've been here, well, I'm aware of. I know we had the club, you know, Fellowship of Christian
Yeah.
Athletes. We have that type of club.
I
that,
heard it was going to
I
I
don't
think they passed something a while back to where that could be,
could be had or it was
yeah.
I'm not aware of that in any of our.
schools right now.
No, I don't. Not
Well,
that I'm
it was
aware
something
of.
was coming up, I don't know.
Yeah, I remember something about that too.
Could it be identified in the program of studies for schools in West Virginia as an elective, but we're not just offering, we're not offering it here?
Yes, if it's someone transferring in, we can, you know, really take whatever elective they have. Because the electives don't have to be, they're not state approved. They can be locally approved electives. And it could be, there's some things that will qualify the WEVAS catalog with certain WEVAS numbers that you get, you know, state approval. There's others that's just locally approved. And, you know, and if it's anything that's a question, I can actually bring before this board and ask you to approve it as an elective for this county.
I think Candy's on there and can answer those questions.
Is Candy on there?
I am.
Can you answer those questions?
Yes, we take Bible. We get, when the kids transfer in from New Life, we take Bible and match it up as best we can in the WEVAS catalog and use it as an elective credit for them.
But
It's not a problem.
But you don't teach Bible.
No, we don't teach Bible, but it goes on their transcript as an elective because they've already earned it at another school. And a lot of times kids will come in with different math classes or science classes, and we match those up and give them the closest WEVAS number to what they had so they don't lose those credits.
I know our high schools do work very well with people in evaluating the transcripts. They get the counselors in and they really work closely. But thank you, Candy.
Thank you.
You're
I guess that answered it.
Could we get some clarification of West Virginia Department of Education, the governor's directive? In one paragraph, they say that students will return to a 5-day week. Do they still have the option of remote learning?
Okay, yeah, I'll give you I'm glad you asked that. So his directive is, we had several school systems who were continuing to operate on the 2-day-a-week model. And that really wasn't acceptable. We were being told for the past few months that wasn't acceptable. The governor wanted students back in school. So when we moved from the 2-day to the 4-day, we complied. We met we met those requirements. Many of the other school systems did not. I don't want to say many, but other school systems did not. So the governor's directive was 5 days a week, and that's for those who are not doing distance learning. So if you're doing virtual schools through the Department of Ed, the teachers, the local teachers, are not involved in delivering instruction. That's purely through the Department of Ed. So those individuals can come back, are supposed to come back 5 days a week. Since this county is doing virtual schools and distance learning, our teachers are still providing instruction to our students out in the communities, which means that our folks, we stay consistent with our model of 4 days a week. So that is what he said, 5 days a week, and then we had, maybe it was a clarification, came back that said if you're doing distance learning, you can also do 4 days a week. One of the things that, if this board is so inclined, I can look, we're trying to determine now how many substitutes we would have available. I don't think it would be possible to hire enough subs to continue with our distance learning, because we would have to do that to bring ours in 5 days a week, because it's not possible to have our teachers teaching 5 days a week and doing the distance learning. So we stay with our model of 4 days a week with 1 day of distance learning. Unless this board directs me otherwise, that's how we will stay, and it's lawful to do that. One of the other things, I'm planning to get information out tomorrow. We do have students who are failing regardless of the attempts that we've made. We've had student assistance teams meetings. We've had social workers visit homes. We've had multiple contacts or attempted contacts, and some are still just not doing any work at all. And so what several other counties are doing, and I plan to follow suit, is to say, and it also goes along with our virtual schools policy that says any student who failed first semester, they're not eligible to continue with distance learning or virtual schools the second semester. So for all of those who failed that first semester, I'm going to be putting something up tomorrow, and I'm going to be asking the schools. I worked with Part 2 high school principals today. They helped provide some pretty good direction on this. So tomorrow I plan to get information out to my principals, and then after their review, I'll get the information out to the county, letting everyone know that if you have had a child who has not been successful in distance or virtual, they're ineligible to continue that practice. They will need to come face-to-face on January 21st, or they do have the option to homeschool. But if they went to public school, that's what they need to do.
I'm getting all kinds of horror stories about virtual.
Sure.
That the State Department is not providing the necessary assistance to the students in taking those classes.
Virtual is hard. Virtual, so we have two. So the virtual from the Department of Ed, I will tell you, I was very happy that our teachers stepped up in this county. Our teachers, and I'm going to tell you some really good things about our teachers. Our teachers stepped up to do distance learning. Some other counties, they did not. And the kids are suffering with those virtual classes.
Oh, yeah.
Good students are suffering. They're very rigorous. They're suffering. Whereas we went with the option of, we have very minimal students, our highest achieving students are in these virtual programs, and many of them are still struggling. Our ones that are on distance learning who are trying have been pretty successful. So again, I don't disagree with what you're saying. But if the only thing I know to do is to make them ineligible to go second semester on the distance or virtual, and require them to come face-to-face, and if they choose not to, then the parents can pull them from public school.
And encourage them not to take virtual.
We've really
I
tried.
know Tim's been doing that.
We have, and what we've also done is each of the high school principals, because elementary, they have virtual for elementary. Our elementary teachers were in here, several of them, and they said absolutely not. We'll do distance. Middle school, I think the majority, or if not all, are doing distance. The high school has the option of virtual or distance. The high school's counselors talked with each of the students before they allowed it. If they had to have really, really good grades, before they were allowed to do virtual. One of our challenges is the virtual for foreign language. Since we can't get foreign language teachers, that's one avenue. We had a real issue with it last year. So there's challenges with it. You're right.
Now, also, it says if the county's red, then they don't go to school.
Only high school.
Only high school. But it says the Department of Ed won't be putting out the map, it'll be the health department.
Yes, it's the DHHR map. So we've been operating under two maps. The DHHR map, but the map the school system has been using is a school system map that really was put in place for sports. And that Saturday map, if it was red or if it was orange, you were out for the week. Well, since he eliminated that school map, we're back to the DHHR map. And the DHHR map has always showed elevated numbers compared to that school map. So now if you look, probably what, 95, 98% of the state is red, or has been, something like that. Yeah, so what the governor is saying is that regardless if it's red or orange, middle and elementary school kids are to report to school, regardless of the color of the map.
Why? What's the logic?
I don't know. And then the other, then he says the high school, it's saying what was stated to us, to superintendents, is that the infection rate is higher, or transmission rate, I should say, is higher among high school age students than middle and elementary. So because of that transmission rate being higher among the high school, that's why it's discretionary. So the high school, if it's red, we're supposed to assess it day by day in conjunction with the health department. It is a challenge. I've also, since we're on this topic, I have had several teachers who have contacted me, as well as principals, who asked why I had misrepresented their thoughts on returning to school. I didn't know what they were even talking about. So there was a statement that apparently, from what I'm being told, was misquoted by WSAZ concerning our state superintendent, that said that 55 county superintendents that said that we said that teachers and counselors were in favor of students attending school in person.
I saw that too, and I thought,
Statement was not, that statement.
I can't believe that.
It was not made. The statement was not made. And so I was told today from some other superintendents that they did contact Mr. Burge, and I do have a copy of the letter that went out to him, and it was just simply asking that we have involvement in evaluating the map that was being used, the school map, that we wanted to have some input on that. That's basically what the letter said. So I was told that Mr. Birch said that WSAZ, they were putting out a clarification that stated that, the 55 county superintendents did not say that he had talked to teachers and counselors when he was out in the schools, and they had expressed interest of the students coming back. So I haven't seen it come out yet, but I'm sure it'll probably be out, which I understand, misquotes happen all the time. But it did cause a little bit of a stir in this county, because people automatically thought, oh, why did you go out and misrepresent that? I did not. So there'll be a clarification definitely comes out from him. And I did send an email out to my principals today for them to share with the staff of the letter that was actually sent to the superintendent. And again, in that email, I also said, please know that just because it is in print doesn't mean that it's true or accurate. The miscommunications do occur. So I didn't hear it. I wasn't involved in the interview. I have no idea. Even sometimes people misspeak when you talk. I don't know. But I just know that I didn't say it, and I didn't sign a letter that said it.
I thought the governor was the one that stated that he wanted to go back by
He did, the governor stated.
19th, I think.
Yeah, the governor stated that, but this one is, the one that I'm talking about, there is a statement in a WSAZ news release that says that the superintendent had made this
Well, they
statement.
decision.
Yes.
Right. Well, what's the status on shots for the teachers?
Okay. Again, I was hoping to get that information today. We had a phone conference, it was on Friday, stating that we would have shots available for Thursday and Friday for all of our staff members 50 and over. And the State Department of Ed looked at our certified list of all of our current, employees, and they sent a form or link for them to request the vaccine. And so that's how they determine the number of vaccines we need for this county. They asked me to provide them with a point of contact with who would be coordinating this for the county. And so I responded back that Martha Roop, our head nurse, would be coordinating this. And I have not heard anything back yet. I do know that Michelle Black was in meetings today concerning the vaccinations. They're trying to roll them out as quickly as they can, but as soon as we get the information, I would think I would have it by tomorrow, we will get the information out to the employees.
What about bus drivers?
All employees is what I was told. Then the second round that comes through will be for our substitutes and things, our retirees that are still subbing.
What happens with the students that have failed the first semester and we pull them back in? Do they have to repeat that semester?
Thank you for asking that question. So we have, we've really tried to be proactive in all this. We have, for second semester, we will have credit recovery in place for students in second semester to recover credits from first semester. So that way they don't wait till the end of the year, they don't do it during the summer, they actually can jump right in and get that credit recovery in the second semester. I will tell you, I've never seen a group of individuals work any harder to help kids be successful than our folks in Nicholas. We've tried everything that I can think of. I mean, of course, you're going to hear people who've not had as much success, or they don't feel as confident about the process, or what's happened. But what I'll tell you, as a majority, our folks are doing a pretty good job.
Beginning January the 19th, or shortly thereafter, I think we come back on the 21st, according to the governor's statement, all K through 8th grade students will go to school regardless of what's on the Department of Health and Human Resources, the column that's on their website.
Yes.
But high school students will be evaluated on a day-by-day basis, and if it's red, they will go to school.
Correct.
Okay. So we have been red in Nicholas County for what, the last 2 to 3 weeks, maybe longer? So if we hadn't been in school, we would have been in school for the high school kids, but the other kids have gone to school. So I don't know, it's going to be, if this continues, if it spikes upward, we're going to have kids maybe not in school. Are we going to do remote learning during that time?
We will continue with our remote learning, yes.
Okay.
So we will definitely continue with the remote learning. One of the things that we're doing, again, we're doing something that a lot of other counties are not doing. Students who do not have internet, we're actually sending buses out. We're picking up iPads. The iPads are being brought into the schools. The assignments are being downloaded, or the work's being downloaded at the school, and new assignments are being uploaded, and the iPads are being returned back to the homes. We also have social workers who have hotspots who are going out visiting students so that they can get assignments uploaded and downloaded. I mean, we're exhausting every effort that we can think of to do.
One last thing. I believe also the governor's order says that winter sports now have been moved to March the 1st, and will be played at that particular time, I guess. I guess that's going to run right into spring sports as well.
You'd have basketball, track, baseball, softball, everything going on all at once.
I'm not sure how it will be managed, but that's what's been stated. March the 1st is when they'll do it.
That might be changed.
Is basketball, or are they, like they did with football, where they allow them to come in and,
No, not now.
huh?
Not now.
They won't be able to come
Right.
in and, like, well,
No.
practice or whatever, just not play till March the 1st.
Yeah, that holds true, but my question, this is just me, you got all these kids in school all day, but you can't take a few to the gym by the evening. I'm scratching my head on that.
Well, one thing that I'll say is, we have received some emails from parents over the weekend stating that they were withdrawing their children immediately. So some people are pretty unhappy with what the governor has done. So.
Did he ask any input from superintendents and principals on that? Or?
Not from our association. We sent a letter, and our letter, and I'm happy to share it with you, but we just sent a joint letter that said, basically, we would, we've had some counties that only had school 3 days. Some counties that have been in school 2 or 3 weeks this whole time. And they were asking to have input on the assessment of this map, other ways to look at it. That's basically what the letter asked for. But to my knowledge, if he spoke to individual superintendents, I don't know. He didn't talk to me, and there's not been any indication from our superintendents association that he requested input from them. Now, whether he talked to individuals, I really couldn't tell you that. But what I will say that will dictate what we're doing is staff availability. So if we don't have staff to operate schools, then these schools can't operate. One of the challenges we're going to have is, for example, a couple of weeks ago before Thanksgiving, I closed the entire county because of the transmission rate. I believe it was the right thing to do. It was turned red the following day. But I had 3 schools that I absolutely did not have enough staff to run. It was Somersville Middle School, Nicholas County High School, and Somersville Elementary School. My fear was, had I closed just those 3 schools, other schools in the county may not have understood, and parents may not have understood that I was closing those because we didn't have enough substitutes. Some may have feared, as I was accused of back when we had this big flu epidemic here a couple of years ago, that I closed a school because I cared more about one school than another school. So if I had closed those 3 schools and didn't close the rest, I was feared that people would automatically say, well, look, she just doesn't care about us. So it was best just go ahead and close the whole county. So now I think it will be more of a school-by-school basis. So if we have...
Like it was before.
Yeah, if we have 5 schools that we don't have subs for, then we'll have to close those 5 schools. One of the other things that's happened, this is going to be difficult, is the federal leave, that COVID leave, was not extended. So now, anyone that gets COVID, for example, we have had cases, especially in elementary, of full classrooms being quarantined. So, if I had a full class quarantine, then, the teacher could remote teach and we were okay. But if you get a student in a class and who is positive, and then the teacher has to quarantine because of the meeting the threshold of the guidelines, that teacher has to take all that COVID leave from there, or they have to take their own sick leave. They don't get COVID leave. They could turn around and come back. They could get exposed again. They could be out again. I mean, it could really be a challenge for some of our teachers, because there's potential that you could be quarantined multiple times. They don't get paid. It won't be. It's just not a good situation.
Well, how are they going to handle that if an elementary student tests positive, and are they like going to quarantine that class?
Well, it depends on if they're within, past, 48 hours, within 6 foot. So I have had a couple of classes quarantined, but there wasn't any spread from it or anything like that. It didn't spread to other students. It was just a close proximity because they operate more of as a little family, you know, a little group. So it's kind of easier to, it's easier to pull that group together and quarantine them. Whereas you go to high school, they jump from class to class to class to class. So I mean, there's a lot of people they can, you know, expose. I don't have all the answers, but I will tell you, it's stressful times. It's stressful times, not knowing, you know, what to do, trying to follow the rules as we're supposed to follow them.
And it's confusing to us. Just imagine what the parents are going through.
I know it. I know it. I know, and I don't know if there's anything else that I can write that would make it simpler or clarifying to help parents. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure. I can think about it, see if there's something else I can put out, but.
You know, you said that you had parents saying they want to pull their kids, or they pull them too. So they put them in distance?
Right, well, no, well, they can't put it in distance. Well, they can ask to put them in distance or virtual if they were not in that first semester. You know, they can absolutely do that. The one I got, and then I've had some principals contact me, said that she was pulling her child to put the child in private school. So I don't know. I mean, they have the option of homeschooling.
I think I'm in private school, they'll be going to school. I mean, private schools on it.
I don't know the reasoning behind. I know that just parents are so concerned. It's the thresholds are so different. You have some people, it's down here, their concerns down here. You've got other people, it's up here, and we're trying to hit it in the middle. And I feel like superintendents, we are really in the middle because, you know, you've got the governor that is giving directives, and you've got the State Department of Ed trying to follow those directives, and then you've got the superintendents trying to carry it out and trying to get the information to the parents, and you've got these parents that are, it's just not easy. It's terrible. It's terrible, and I try not to criticize or overthink what anyone above me is doing, you know, statewide, because I don't know what all they're going through, because I know that it's stressful enough what I'm going through. I mean, I'm not saying I don't think critical things in my mind, and I try not to say them, but it's stressful.
Nobody has control.
And the communication's not the best. I don't know, does any of this help? I mean, is there any other questions?
So that you'll be getting a lot of phone calls.
Yeah. I mean, if there's things that you all think that I can put out, maybe that would help clarify, I can do that. Can you think of anything else that maybe I can add?
It's clear to me after you explained some of those, but it was confusing when I first looked at it. But that's not your fault. That came from the governor and the Department of Education.
You know, I think that's one thing you need to stress is the fact that this is not a board decision. This is a government's decision. A lot of people are saying this is board. It's not.
I know.
It's not the board.
Yep. Yep. Dr. Penix, can you think of anything else I need to add? I'll put together something tomorrow and try to address it.
I can't think of a thing. Just, you know, we've had people, students and employees who have tested positive, and they've gone through the quarantining and returned, and that type of thing. And to be honest with you, there's probably a lot of people out there who will not get tested, and they're carrying the virus. And we're just living in some very frightening times. And we're doing the best we can do to try to educate kids in this mess that we're in. And so I don't think there's anything else we can say other than what's been said in the city. So.
You wonder about those shots, or you're going to have trouble getting the next shot if you get the first one. You know, if you're able to.
And that's something that some of the teachers have been upset about because they said okay, they'll give the first round of shots, but then they're requiring students to come to school prior to them getting the second round of shots. And I get that. I get that. I mean,
I thought the first round lasted so long, and that's why you had to get the second. It was like a booster to that first one.
I don't know. I just know that that's what's being communicated to me from teachers. They're saying that they're upset that they should have both sets of shots. I understand it. People have sick family members at home.
There's a lot of stuff going on. My son-in-law said his pharmacy and workers were going out giving shots in nursing homes. And somebody tried to hijack that mode of vaccine that they were bringing down to them to give to the nursing homes. It's a whole truckload of it. There's so many forces out there, just crazy.
Mr. Remick, is there anything you want me to add to that?
Well, I think from what we know, we've tried to cover everything. You could say beware the eyes of March.
The 221 will be bad.
How about you, Mr. Berry? Can you think of anything else you'd like me to add, or?
I don't think it'll be different tomorrow. Yeah.
By the time you get something written out, it'll change.
Yeah, well, if you want to think of anything else you want me to add, I can add. Before I send stuff out, I do my best to try to send you all a copy so you can see what's going out.
I think most, 99% of the community understands that this is just something. We'll get back to normal and won't know what to do. Or will there ever be a normal?
I hope so. I hope so.
That's all we can hope. Yeah, we're certainly hoping that we do get back to normal soon. Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Any other questions? Item 10 on this evening's agenda, reports. From the SESC, we had a meeting that was December the 18th, I believe it was, and really basically just standard business of the organization. But we have a good presentation about Mentor model environments for education. They were flexible environments for classrooms. And I would say the superintendent, if you go to Jason Butcher, he sent out the presentation of that. And there's some really good things that might be used that you can share with Mr. Bayless and others about some of the tech ed programs, that type of thing, how they are flexibly set up and that type of thing. But it's a very good presentation on that, and I think we got a lot of good ideas that we might consider as we construct these new schools. And that's about it for the SESC report. How about Bright Horizon?
I did attend that meeting, and it was just pretty much, they're trying to get back. So it wasn't a whole lot long. But actually, like I said, we don't have any students up there at this time.
So, Nichols County students.
No Nichols County students there.
Thank you, Mrs. Kaufman. Item 11, Madam Secretary, any delegations this evening?
No, sir.
Thank you. Items for future agendas.
Just if you bring down ZMM, I guess, too.
ZMM, okay, they're supposed to be here on the 19th.
Potentially.
Okay. I'll mark them down, ZMM presentation.
I was going to ask you, are they going to change that meeting where they came down on Fridays?
What, the Monday meetings?
Yeah.
We were going to do Monday and Fridays.
Monday and Friday.
But he wants to do a working meeting on Fridays. The design review meeting, I assume he would still
saying
come.
Mondays was really
The board
hard
meeting
for
Monday,
him.
the board meeting Mondays, he should still be coming up for that. I think so. I mean,
Well, he was
after the discussions today, I'm not really sure of his intent.
We need to follow up and see, because there seems to be a problem if they're having calls or these sessions on Friday, these work sessions, it's hard to get anything done between Friday and
Friday,
Monday.
Monday.
You know, because it's
I
Friday.
yeah, I wasn't clear on that.
So we need to get a clarification on that. Anything else, items for future agendas? Okay, item 13, future meetings. We have an LSIC meeting next Monday night over at Somersville Elementary. There'll be Mount Lookout Elementary, Mount Nebo Elementary, Somersville Elementary, Bush River Elementary, and Zila Elementary. We'll be meeting at 5 p.m. And Madam Secretary, I assume that's in the conference or the cafeteria area?
Assuming yes.
Okay. Then we have the regular meeting on Tuesday the 19th. A regular meeting on Monday, February the 1st here at the board office. Regular meeting on Monday, February the 15th here at the board office. And we need to reschedule the meeting that was supposed to be held on December the 15th at Glade Creek Elementary. And that would involve Somersville Middle, Nicholas County High School, Glade Creek, Valley River, and the Career Center. There's presentation. Do you all want to do that this month or bump that up into February?
I'll say both of them.
Bump it up into February.
Since we already have the one room.
Okay, we will, can we get Superintendent, our Secretary, we can maybe talk with, and that was supposed to be held where, at Glade Creek?
Yes.
We need to get with that school and see, just maybe schedule one for the second week in February on Monday night.
Well, there's no school on that day.
There's no school?
Our President's Day.
Yeah.
Tuesday night.
Okay.
Tuesday night?
Tuesday the 9th?
Tuesday, and every Tuesday the 9th of February. If you want to mark that tentatively down, Tuesday,
Yeah, we're at Glade Creek.
February 9th, right,
Yes.
Glade Creek. And you'll get back with us and let us know if that's,
Yes.
works out with them. Is that okay with everyone, the objections? Okay, item F, we need to schedule a meeting to complete the superintendent's 2020-2021 evaluation and the possible contract extension with the Nicholas County Board of Education. We can do that during the day, and you don't want to look at your calendars and see when you might want to do it. Any suggestions?
That has to be done for March 1st.
March 31st, we have everything completed, and what that involves, we have to set aside a meeting totally for that. We will come in, I'll give you the evaluation. We'll go over, as a board, we'll go over it, and we'll call the superintendent in, we'll go over the evaluation with her, the results of the evaluation. And then also we will discuss the contract situation with the superintendent. And that's the sole purpose of the meeting.
That's not an open meeting.
What?
Is that an open meeting?
Well, anytime you do evaluation, you have to do an executive session. So it'll be open to the public for the first, just opening it up, and then we'll go into executive session to complete all the rest of it, and then we'll come out and announce the results of the evaluation and the determination of the contract. Okay.
What about the week of January the 18th? Of course, there's probably no school there with Martin Luther in there somewhere.
That's on Monday.
Yeah, and we have a board meeting on the
Board meeting on
19th.
Tuesday.
And the 20th is inauguration day. Let's see.
Just do it the first, because if the weather's bad, we may have to reschedule. We are talking January.
Okay.
But we have till the end of March.
Yeah, we have to.
No, we have to have that evaluation finished before we meet
Well,
for this.
Yes, on the 11th, so I'd ask you to have that back to me. And then, how about on the the 25th, or 26th, something like that. If, 21st is fine with me, but
That's on Sunday.
Is that going to give you enough time to get it tallied from the 11th?
I can get it done. I mean, I can just, it takes a bit of time to get all that out, get the percentages out like you presented.
Once we went to the 25th, I don't have anything else going on that week.
Okay,
I'm gonna get that week I'm gonna get a couple of people.
okay, the week of the 25th?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if y'all want to back it up to the 21st, that's fine with me, that's okay
I
with you?
have a disappointment.
You have disappointment, okay. How about the 22nd, Friday,
Are you gonna do it in the afternoon instead?
2 o'clock in the afternoon? Good. Mr. Roos, does that sound good to you? 2 o'clock on the
Yes, sir.
22nd?
Dr. Teacher, will you be here because of going to your Friday meeting in Charleston?
I can always make it a Thursday.
January 22nd, 2 p.m. And Madam Secretary, when you notice that meeting, you might check back on previous notices that would complete the evaluation. And, well, you have to go back to 4 years ago, but we have to look at the, and consider it an extension of the contract.
Now, if I was on the evaluation at that date too.
We will do the evaluation, and then we will do the contract.
But we turn that evaluation into you on
Next Monday night at 11. And I'll have that ready for you on each one the same. Okay. Any other things to come before the board this evening? If not, is there a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
Make a motion.
Mr. Berry moves. Is there a second?
second.
Mrs. Kaufman seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Madam Secretary, we're adjourned at 7:26 p.m.